But Paul D.E.H.N., who's dead now, I think he was terrific.
Roddy McDowall was best known to the public as a talented actor, starring in everything from Planet of the Apes to dozens of television and stage productions. But behind the fame, he was quietly building something extraordinary. A vast hidden archive that captured the essence of Hollywood during its most glamorous and turbulent years. For decades, McDowall photographed his friends, colleagues, and private gatherings with an intimacy that professional photographers could never achieve. The result was a treasure trove of candid moments, secret romances, and unguarded glimpses into the lives of the stars who defined the 1960s. This wasn't just a hobby. McDowall's passion for photography became a lifelong mission, and his collection revealed the humanity behind the Hollywood myth. Stars like Elizabeth Taylor, Paul Newman, Natalie Wood, and Jane Fonda appeared in his images not as distant icons, but as friends, laughing, relaxing, and sometimes exposing vulnerabilities the world was never meant to see. For years, his archive remained tucked away, known only to a small circle of insiders. But in time, whispers of what McDowall had preserved began to circulate, raising questions about what secrets were hidden in those countless rolls of film. These weren't staged studio portraits. They were snapshots of an era, raw and real, offering a perspective on Hollywood that no journalist or paparazzo could capture. What exactly did Roddy McDowall's hidden archive reveal? Why did he keep it private for so long? And how has this treasure reshaped the way we understand the golden age of Hollywood? The answers lie. Roddy McDowall's life in Hollywood was unusual from the very beginning. Born in London in 1928, he became a child star in the 1940s, appearing in classics like How Green Was My Valley. But unlike so many young actors whose careers faded as they grew older, McDowall successfully transitioned into adulthood, carving out a steady career in film, television, and theater. Yet acting was only one of his passions. Behind the scenes, he was cultivating something even more fascinating, a love for photography that would eventually lead him to document the hidden side of Hollywood. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, McDowall was already deeply embedded in the world of stars and studio power players. He wasn't just another actor, he was a trusted friend. Unlike the press photographers who hounded celebrities at premieres and nightclubs, McDowall was welcomed into their homes, parties, and private lives. His camera became almost invisible because those around him knew he wasn't there to exploit them but to capture something real. This trust was the foundation of what would become his vast and secretive archive. McDowall began photographing his friends during casual gatherings, movie sets, and holidays. Elizabeth Taylor, one of his closest confidants, often appeared in his frames laughing, unguarded, and free of the carefully constructed glamour she usually presented to the public. Similarly, stars like Paul Newman, Jane Fonda, and Natalie Wood revealed sides of themselves rarely, if ever, seen in magazines. These weren't glossy studio portraits, and they were authentic. Personal snapshots taken by someone who knew them as human beings rather than untouchable icons. What made McDowall's work so extraordinary was the access he had. In an era when paparazzi were becoming increasingly aggressive and intrusive, Hollywood's elite often lived in fear of their private moments being exposed. Yet McDowall's camera was different. His subjects understood that he wasn't chasing scandal or headlines. Instead, he wanted to preserve the spirit of the moment, the laughter at a dinner table, the exhaustion after a long day on set, the quiet tenderness between friends and lovers. The 1960s were a particularly vibrant time in Hollywood. The old studio system was breaking down, giving way to a new generation of actors and directors who challenged traditional boundaries. McDowall, with his camera in hand, was there to witness it all. His photographs chronicled not just individuals, but a cultural shift. They showed the glamour, yes, but also the uncertainty, the experimentation, and the vulnerability of stars who were redefining what it meant to be part of Hollywood. Importantly, McDowall never flaunted his archive. While he occasionally published books of his photography, the majority of his collection remained private, locked away in his home. Friends who posed for him trusted that their images would never be used against them. This discretion made him even more beloved in Hollywood circles, allowing him to capture moments that no outsider could have dreamed of seeing. In hindsight, it's clear that McDowall wasn't just indulging a hobby. He was building a historical record, an intimate visual diary of an era that would become one of the most romanticized in film history. Without him, much of that hidden world would have vanished into memory. Instead, thanks to his lens, the secret lives of 1960s Hollywood stars remain preserved, waiting to be rediscovered. In the photographs and the stories behind them. The most striking thing about Roddy McDowall's hidden archive isn't just the sheer number of photographs. It's what those images reveal. Hollywood in the 1960s was a place of contradictions. On the surface, it glittered with red carpet glamour, premieres, and carefully constructed public images. But behind closed doors, the stars were living far more complicated lives. McDowall, with his camera always close at hand, managed to capture those private realities in ways no one else could. Elizabeth Taylor, for example, trusted McDowall implicitly. His photographs of her from this era show a side of the legendary actress almost no one else ever saw, playful, relaxed, even mischievous. Instead of the polished movie goddess, McDowall's lens revealed a woman laughing with friends at the dinner table or quietly reflecting in a corner, free of makeup and the pressures of constant publicity. For Taylor, who endured scandal after scandal in the press, McDowall's images offered something rare, a safe space where she could simply be herself. Natalie Wood's appearances in the archive are equally powerful. In McDowall's photographs, she wasn't just the glamorous star of West Side Story or Rebel Without a Cause. She was a young woman wrestling with fame, relationships, and the constant scrutiny of the public eye. Some of McDowall's most poignant images show Wood looking vulnerable, even fragile, in quiet moments of solitude. These images, seen today, take on an almost haunting quality. Given her tragic death years later, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward also appear frequently in McDowall's work, and the photographs reveal the warmth and intimacy of their marriage. Hollywood couples were often scrutinized and gossiped about, but McDowall's camera captured the genuine affection between the two, tender glances, playful exchanges, and the comfort of a partnership built on mutual respect. For fans who only knew Newman as the cool, confident movie star, McDowall's photographs remind us that he was also a devoted husband and father. Then there were the parties. McDowall's camera was often present at gatherings that brought together the biggest names of the decade. Stars like Jane Fonda, Rock Hudson, and even political figures such as the Kennedys occasionally turned up in his photos. These weren't staged publicity events, they were private celebrations, filled with laughter, conversation, and the occasional scandalous moment. His photographs pulled back the curtain on Hollywood's social world, showing the stars not as icons, but as friends, rivals, and human beings. Perhaps most intriguing of all, McDowall's archive hinted at the secret romances and hidden lives of the era. In a time when homosexuality was still taboo in Hollywood, many actors and actresses concealed their true identities from the public. McDowall himself, a gay man in a conservative industry, understood this double life better than most. His photographs often carried subtle clues, glances exchanged between friends, private gatherings where people could be themselves without fear. He never exploited these secrets, but his images quietly documented a truth that Hollywood wasn't ready to share with the world. The archive was, in many ways, a mirror. It reflected both the glamour and the fragility of an industry that thrived on illusion. Through McDowall's lens, the stars became human again, flawed, vulnerable, and achingly real. It was this authenticity, hidden away for decades, that makes his work so important today. For decades, the question lingered. Why did Roddy McDowall keep so much of his archive hidden? The answer lies partly in his personality. Despite his fame, McDowall was never the type to seek the spotlight for himself. He was reserved, thoughtful, and intensely loyal to his friends. His camera was not a weapon, nor was it a tool for exploitation. Instead, it was a means of preserving memories, of holding on to fleeting moments in an industry where everything changed so quickly. McDowall knew that trust was the currency of Hollywood. Stars confided in him, allowed him into their private worlds, and accepted the presence of his camera because they understood he would never use their vulnerability against them. In the 1960s, the tabloids thrived on scandal, and one misplaced photograph could destroy a career. McDowall's decision to keep much of his work private wasn't just about protecting himself. It was about protecting the people he cared about. There were also practical reasons. McDowall was meticulous about cataloging his work. He stored negatives in carefully labeled boxes, often jotting down notes about the date, the event, or the mood of the day. To him, the archive wasn't a commodity to be sold. It was a living memory bank, one that only made sense if it was handled with care. Sharing.